What's up, guys? Welcome into MLB DFS live for Friday, May 28th. I'm your host, Ben Hustler, joined by Justin Bales. Bales, we have a weather-filled slate today. One game, Milwaukee, Washington, which you can see on the screen right here, has already been postponed, and it looks like, at least to me, the Marlins Red Sox game, that game looks like it's going to get postponed, and then the Mets and Braves, I think, is also going to get postponed. So I think we're going to be for sure down 3 games. I'm in Ohio. It's really just gross here. It's just been raining all day. It's cold. So Cleveland, I think, could have some issues. We'll see. I don't know how motivated they're going to be to play the game. We'll see, I guess, later on about that one. And then I did see some concerns about the White Sox game as well, but more minor than the ones that I think for sure are going to get postponed. So, interesting slate going on, filled with weather. We'll do our best to navigate the weather issues and bring you the plays we're looking at today. How are you doing? How do you feel about the slate?
Yeah, I mean, it always sucks when you kind of can't do that much until you're just, more or less sitting waiting on these ridiculous weather spots. But at least it's to the point where like we can pretty safely project that the Mets aren't going to play. We can
It
relatively
literally just got postponed as we were talking right there.
Oh, they did. They postponed it now.
Yep, like 5 seconds ago.
I mean, we can pretty safely assume that Boston's not playing too. So like we can kind of just run through the slate assuming that those games don't play. I think it's going to be a little harder for the Cleveland game because it seems like if they want to just play in a gross game, they can, or they can obviously just do some doubleheader later. Feels relatively similar for the White Sox, even though it looks like that game actually probably is much closer to playing or anything. But the good news is that it's not like a 7-game slate where 4 games get postponed. It's 12 games tonight. So even with 3-4 postponements, we still have a relatively large slate that's going to give us plenty of options.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and dive into it. If you guys have questions, post them in the YouTube chat. Bales can read them if you guys have them. So just if you have them, go to YouTube, type them in the YouTube chat, and we'll start out at pitcher here. So Garrett Cole is the obvious one, right? I mean, you can take a look at this. Detroit,
Yep.
2.2 implied run total. It's cold there. It's good pitching weather. So I think it's pretty clear that you want to play Garrett Cole and that he is the top option tonight. I don't think anyone's really arguing that. After him is where it gets really interesting, right? I mean, we have Walker Buehler, who I think is good, right? The Giants are kind of a pesky offense, right? But Walker Buehler's good. So if you want to go double spend up at pitcher, you can do that with Cole and Buehler. After those two, it's a bunch of risks, right? I mean, you have Shohei Ohtani is going to project really well for his price tag on DraftKings, but like yesterday, I was really interested in Ohtani because it was a small slate, and he obviously has upside every time he steps on the mound. But this is not someone that you want to go out of your way to play in cash games. I mean, he's not going to throw long, right? The pitch count is definitely a concern. He walks a lot of guys, which can drive up the pitch count, and if he does give up a couple barrels, like there might be some guys on base. So it is a little bit risky, but you have him. And you have Sean Manaea, who I think is going to be decently high owned on this slate for his price as an SP2. And then after those two guys, I mean, you're talking about some guys that we really haven't rostered all season that are going to be like good options on a bigger Friday slate. So outside of the top guys, because I don't think we don't really need to discuss Cole being the top option, right? Like if you don't know to play him, it's obvious, especially against Detroit. And really the same can be said with Buehler. He's fine in all formats. If you want to play him, you can try and pair them together if you want. Outside of those top two, where are you looking today?
Yeah, well, I mean, pitcher had a lot of really good options, but you take 2 away, and Ian Anderson was way too cheap at 9,700, and even Taijuan Walker at 91 was a little too cheap for the matchups. Take both of them away. I was slightly interested possibly in like Martin Perez. It looks like he also gets taken away. So I think you outlined it really well. You're just spending up for Cole. Same can be said for Walker Buehler. I don't have any issues there whatsoever. I believe that I'm on Ohtani probably a little bit more than you, but I understand that there are definite risks. I just think that on this type of slate now that we don't really have all the options that we did, his strikeout rate really comes into play. It's not like Oakland's an offense that really can't strike out too. So you're in a pretty good spot there. I think at 8,200, if you want to take your shot on like Framber Valdez, I don't mind it, but I don't really love playing left-handed pitcher against the Padres. They just don't strike out a lot. They do have a lot of power in their lineup. So it's really tough. I want to like Sean Manaea. I just don't necessarily really think that I do that much. I know he has the Vegas line that goes with him. I think at 5,800, like Randy Dobnak is relatively fine. That's a little bit too cheap for him. I think if you want to take a shot on Anthony DeSclafani, he's throwing really well, but do you really want to use someone against the Dodgers right now? And then, no, I'm not even going to go. I was going to say at 53, Jordan Lyles is in play in tournaments, but realistically, I'm more likely to stack Seattle than I probably am to play Jordan Lyles tonight.
No, I actually, I think a lot of these cheaper guys are in play. So I do agree with you. The only thing with Ohtani is I think he's going to get ownership, right? I mean, like, I don't really
I would
know
assume
who else
so, yeah.
people will play. So I think that the tier after those top two is probably Ohtani, Manaea, and then Hyunjin Ryu, if the Indians game goes, I think is right in there as well. And then you have just a clump of guys after that. Like I think guys like Justice Sheffield are in play. I don't know. Sheffield at least was like a big prospect. In Texas, I'm fine picking on Texas. So I understand that one. Like you said, Jordan Lyles, I think, is in play on this slate. Dobnak, I like Randy Dobnak. I actually think he's kind of good. And he's not a guy that's going to strike out a lot of batters anyways. So the fact that the Royals don't strike out a ton doesn't necessarily concern me when using him because he's going to be able to get ground balls regardless, which is kind of what you want. You're not expecting him to strike out many guys anyways. So I do think he is in play. And I think Casey Mize is in play. He's started to look good, right? This is a guy who went number 1 overall in the draft. We've kind of been waiting for it. His last 2 starts have been good. I'm fine picking on the Yankees. I know the Yankees have a big team total. They always will because they're the Yankees, but they certainly can strike out, especially against a righty, right? I have no problems using him in tournaments. I think he is definitely in play at his price tag. So figuring out what to do at your second pitcher spot is definitely probably gonna be one of the bigger decisions. I think Dallas Keuchel might get ownership because he's 6,300. Like that's someone that I feel like people always play him in DFS. So I actually think he might become kind of popular just because of his price tag.
If he gets ownership over Dobnak,
yeah, you're getting
it'll be crazy.
Dobnak is like a younger version of Dallas Keuchel. He has a little bit more strikeout stuff, but I don't know. I mean, there's similar players, right? One shouldn't be significantly higher owned than the other one when they're basically the same thing, and one is more expensive.
Yeah, I think that Keuchel probably gets a little bit of ownership just because, I mean,
if you don't play Ohtani or Manaea, who are you gonna play? Yeah,
you're just kind of taking your shot wherever. It doesn't really. It probably doesn't matter that much. Like
that team, I mean, Keuchel's a -245 favorite. I mean, yeah, I'm assuming people are actually going to play him, to be honest. So I'm completely fine just not playing him. I don't think you need to.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
What are your thoughts on Mize? Do you agree with me or you disagree?
Yeah, I'm cool with him. I'm not like overly scared of the Yankees at this point. Like, there's obvious upside in their lineup, but do you really care that much? So yeah, I don't have any problems with Mize. I don't think he's going to be like my top option or anything, but when you get down there, like you're just kind of throwing darts anyway, and Mize does at least have some upside.
Yeah, like Mize is someone I would rather play than Keuchel, especially if Keuchel's going to be like high owned.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think of the cheap guys, my favorite's probably Dominic. He just,
I mean, it's
I don't know. I know the strikeout stuff isn't. Yeah.
No.
Along with the glasses, it's just.
Yeah, we were on this. It was, I think it was me and Rube last Friday because you were off, but we were talking about him. Like, we actually talked him up. Rube played him in his lineup, and he did really well. One, he owns the Indians, which is always, I mean, a lot of pitchers own the Indians, but he does own the Indians. But, dude, I said on the stream, like, if you're watching the game with your girlfriend or your wife, like, turn that off when he's on the mound, dude. You better turn the channel, dude, because it's like, it's unbelievable, man. He's got the mustache, the glasses. He just goes out there and shoves. It's incredible.
No, I agree, and it's another spot tonight for it. So, if you're in the Kansas City area, because I'm assuming, dude, everyone in Minnesota knows already.
Don't take your girl to the game tonight, man. If you're going to that Twins Royals game, dude, you better get your buddies to go, man. You don't want to take her. Should be going home with Randy Dobnik.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you didn't see, the Rockies Pirates just got postponed too. So looks like basically all the East Coast stuff is done.
There's tons of weather. It's crazy. It's bad over here. I mean, you guys can see I never had the lights on, so when it's summer, this works out perfectly because the sun just shines in on me. But no sunshine today. Stacks. So if you guys have questions on pitchers, ask. We'll answer them. We'll talk about some stacks. I really don't think this is a great stacking slate. I think I might be more inclined to just run more mini stacks. I think that the White Sox are going to be really chalky, right? Against Matt Harvey, they have a 6-run total.
Yep.
People love the stacking against Matt Harvey every time he pitches. So I do think they will be really high owned. And I do like the Twins against Bubic just because the Twins have a lot of guys that hit lefties as well. I feel like I've been like up and down on the Twins, man. Like I've played them a lot, and it seems to be really hit or miss whether they explode or not. But I do think that they're up there. And then both sides of this Arizona, Seattle, or St. Louis game, 9.5 over under. I like both sides of that game offensively, but that's really it for me stack wise. Like there's no stacks that really stick out far above the field. I mean, the White Sox are going to be owned like that, but there's really no stack that really sticks out to me tonight. I think it's more of I'm going to spread it around tonight.
Yeah, I have no problems whatsoever with that. I do think that the White Sox basically stand well above the rest. It's just feels like everyone's thinking that. So like in tournaments, you're probably not going to eat the chalk because it's so chalky. But I agree. Minnesota is a really, really good stack, I think. I also really like Arizona. I feel like if I'm stacking that game, I prefer Arizona side to St. Louis, but I'm not really going to try to talk you off of St. Louis. If they play, which looks super unlikely, I do like Boston. And outside of that, I mean, honestly, I think the only really like most likely low-owned tournament stack that I'm looking at would be Seattle. And it's so tough because there's not really 5 guys that I'm like dying to play. I guess like if JP Crawford's hitting 5th, he probably fills out the stack. And realistically, I don't like it that much. But I guess you could just throw in like Tom Murphy or Nottingham, a catcher, to fill it out if you wanted. I'm more or less fine with that. But I do think that Lyles is a bad pitcher, and I do think that Seattle's offense is significantly better than they played, just because when you look at their outfield, Kyle Lewis, Kalenic, and Haniger are all, I believe, good hitters. They just kind of have struggled early on, and then you add in Kyle Seager. He's also solid. That's had a pretty poor start to the season, and then you just need one more to fill out the 5 stack. Against a pitcher like Lyles, I feel like this is the type of game where their offense can get going. But at the same time, like I also understand that they've been really bad and they're essentially like the worst offense in the MLB at this point. So it's not like they're going to come out even against a bad pitcher and you're guaranteed that they dominate like some offenses, which is more or less the reason that I just don't believe that they're going to get much ownership.
Yeah, I think that's a good call for tournaments, especially if you're playing larger field stuff. I mean, I do feel like most of the time when Lyles pitches, the team opposite him is pretty decently owned, stack wise. Like if you look at just overall stack ownership, I feel like the team against Lyles is typically in the top 3 or 4, and they're not going to be tonight. So that is a really interesting spot for tournaments, especially if people want to use Lyles in GPPs for a pitcher. So I like that call. I like the Cardinals a lot only because I agree with you. I think most people would side with the Diamondbacks if they were picking one spot of that game. Obviously, bigger team total 5.5, but Bumgarner has turned back the clock a little bit. He's been decent this season, but I mean the advanced stuff still isn't good, right? It's still over 4.5 xFIP. He's still over 40% fly balls and hard contact to right-handed batters. And the Cardinals are going to roll out like an entirely right-handed lineup. And, Goldschmidt, Arenado, these are guys that career-wise hit lefties really well. Dylan Carlson, I think, hits lefties really well. I think he's better against lefties than he is against righties. And then they have some other guys that they can throw in the lineup as well, like O'Neill, that have obviously really big power. So I think the Cardinals are really interesting. I don't think they'll be – they're definitely going to come behind – the White Sox. I think they're probably going to come in behind the White Sox, the Twins, and the Diamondbacks, honestly. And people don't typically play two sides of one game in baseball.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that they're a fine stack. I stacked them last night, and it was surprising how low owned they were, even though they weren't ridiculously low or anything.
They haven't been doing crazy good, either. So. People haven't been stacking them all season. The White Sox have been popular for a lot of slates.
Yeah. I think one of my main issues is that Bumgarner's just thrown really well in Arizona this season.
Yeah.
So I think his xFIP's at 3.75 or something at home. But I 100% understand that St. Louis is throwing out a bunch of right-handed batters and that obviously Bumgarner is significantly better against lefties at this point. So no, I agree that St. Louis makes a really interesting tournament stack because I would assume that most people are just going to play Arizona if they're playing that game.
Yeah, I agree. If you have questions on any other stacks, you can go ahead and ask. We'll talk about our favorite plays at each position here. Catcher, I mean, I think Grandal is going to be the chalky choice here. He's much better against righties than he is against lefties. It's a tough choice because you always have to pick between him and Mercedes, and I feel like whichever one I pick is the opposite one always homers. But I think Grandal is the best play here, and Mitch Garver is pretty cheap for him being against a lefty, so I like him as well. This guy was routinely over 5K last season and even at the beginning of this season against lefties. So I think those are the top two plays. Carson Kelly, I do think is interesting as well, especially if you're playing Arizona.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think Garver and Grandal are both just way too cheap. Outside of dropping down to realistically, there's not many salary relief options that I'm dying to play tonight. I think Kurt Suzuki's interesting at 2,700. That might honestly more or less be it though. There's just no one really that cheap that I feel like it's going to make a big difference on my roster construction that I would play them instead of just spending the extra 1,000 for Grandal, because you think about the mid threes, Nottingham, I would be fine with at 32, but I find it hard to believe that I wouldn't just be able to get up to Mitch Garner or Mitch Garver or Grandal at that point. It's only $1,000.
Yeah, I would throw Molina in if you're playing St. Louis at 3,900, but that's really it. I think unless you're playing Cole and Buehler, with some of these pitching options that we're gonna have to consider for your number 2 on DK, you're gonna be able to get to that mid. The low 4K tier, I think. I think you'll be able to play a mid-tier catcher today. So.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And we generally just literally plug in the cheapest guy on the slate.
Yeah, but I think tonight a little bit different. I think you can fit him in. But first base, my favorite option is Paul Goldschmidt. He's only 3,900. I think that's too cheap, honestly. And he actually he hasn't even been playing bad. So the fact that he's 3,900 against a lefty, I think, is just too cheap. So I want to take advantage of that. Sano is cheap as well for being against a lefty. So you can consider him in cash games. Max Muncie, I'm saving for second, so we can talk about him there if you were going to bring him up. But really, I like those two guys a ton, Goldie and Sano. You could throw in either of the Toronto guys if that game goes. You have Vlad and Rowdy Tellez if he gets in the lineup. But that's really the top of my first base pool, I think, is pretty clear today.
Yeah, I think you can add Garrett Cooper. He's hitting fourth for Miami. It looks like that game's not going to play, so kind of annoying that I am kind of saying it for probably nothing, but Garrett Cooper has been on absolute fire. Another guy that I think makes a really good option, Andrew Vaughn's hitting third. Luckily, he's outfield eligible, but he's going to be on it like 100%.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I think you pretty much nailed it. Goldschmidt at 39, that's such a ridiculous price tag.
I'm talking you into the Cardinals. Let's go.
Yeah, I know. Sano also, I think, is a really good option, along with Jose Abreu if you have the cash, which you probably should to spend up tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Second base, top option for me here is Max Muncie. Our boy DeSclafani, Tony Disco, does struggle with lefties more so than righties. Muncie's price is back up, but I think if you're just looking for the top raw points projection here, it's pretty clearly him. Josh Rojas is pretty cheap. I would be fine with him in cash games, even like as a one-off. And then if you are playing St. Louis, I haven't really figured this out, but I do like Tommy Edmond. Tommy Edmond is similar to Carlson, where I think they both are slightly better against left-handed pitching than they are right-handed pitching. But if you're full stack in the righties from St. Louis, it's tough to put Tommy Edmond in there because you have Goldschmidt, Arenado, Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson. I guess you could fit him in there. I guess that could be the fifth guy. So Tommy Edmond as well for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think you nailed it pretty well. I don't think there's too much else just because of weather concerns. I do think an interesting thing that you can do at second base to get different tonight would be play Nick Madrigal. He's hitting ninth, so you kind of get the back end. But if you just look at what he's doing, it's kind of ridiculous. He's hitting well over 400 over his last 10. He's shown power. He has speed. He's 3,300. And if you're worried about like Matt Harvey is good against right-handed batters and he's just going to get ground balls, realistically, you have to think how many innings can Matt Harvey actually throw against this White Sox team? So Madrigal hitting ninth isn't really going to get ownership, but I do think he's a really good play.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely, and we talk about that all the time on the stream. Play some of the lower order guys, right? And you don't have to, like, people oftentimes in MLB, like, they'll just stack the 1 through 5, or if they want to get weird and they want to stack the bottom, they'll just stack 5, 6, 7, 8. You don't have to do that. You can play Grandal, like you could play a couple guys at the top of the order and then just throw in a couple guys at the bottom order too. Like, you don't have to take the guys right in a row. So definitely getting some of the guys lower in the White Sox order, especially with Vaughn getting bumped up to third. Like, that's a cheap guy that everyone will have in their White Sox stack. So just getting a little bit different, taking one of those guys at the bottom of the order can go a long way. So I agree with that. Third base, again, Nolan Arenado, too cheap for me. Like him a lot at his price tag. In all formats, really. I mean, too cheap on FanDuel, that is. 5,400 on DraftKings, I think, is appropriately priced. But I had FanDuel up on my screen. I think I don't remember, but I think the Cardinals were decently on FanDuel yesterday. But they should be again tonight. Escobar as well, over 5K, I think, is a pretty good play. Outside of those two, you have Machado against a lefty. I don't think San Diego's going to get much ownership on this slate, so that could be a good like one-off. And then Josh Donaldson, dude, don't get me started on Josh Donaldson, man. Like, I don't want to talk about this, but this guy, This guy's just a loser, man. I don't know. Have you seen all this stuff about him and like this, like the pitchers cheating and all this stuff? Have you seen this?
I've seen nothing with Josh Donaldson.
Okay, so I don't remember how this started. I think it was when they were playing. I don't know. So basically, I think how this started was one of the Cardinals pitchers got like the umpire confiscated his hat. Like I think it was one of their good relievers. So the umpire like confiscated his hat because there was a foreign substance on it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then somehow this turned into this huge debate between because it was the Cardinals and the A's, I think, and then this whole thing, and then Josh Donaldson was like, "Oh, I have a whole list of he was like going back and forth with Dallas Braden on Twitter, and he was like, "Oh, I have this whole list of all these pitchers that cheat," and dude, like, don't get me started on this. First of all, this guy is just mad because he can't hit anymore because he's like 100 years old, so he's mad about that. Secondly, dude, we all know that these pitchers like use foreign substances, and literally no one cares.
It's not a secret.
Yeah, none of us care. Like, I want to see these guys that throw 99 with 90-mile-an-hour power sliders be able to whip their pitches like a wiffle ball, dude. That's fun. Like, I could care less if they use it. Everyone does it. What? Like, he's acting like he has some big secret that he's gonna leak. Like, none of us care.
Yeah, there's just videos on you can watch on Twitter any given night, just videos of the guys putting stuff on their fingers.
He sounds like an old man. He's mad because he can't hit anymore. Like, sorry that you're hitting 150 or whatever Josh Donaldson's hitting, but it's not because the pitchers are cheating, dude. Like they're all doing it. Like, God, dude, I was so mad about this the other day. Like, I'm like, but he doesn't play tonight. He doesn't play tonight against the lefty. I'm sure because I'm ranting about him, he's gonna like triple homer tonight. Like, it's just written in the stars for that to happen.
Yeah, I think it's important to add. Sano is also third base eligible. He's only 200 more, and he's been hotter. I do think that Donaldson's a really good play tonight. I have no problems with either one of those two. And you talked about Escobar, but I guess the only guy that I would add is I'm fine with Kyle Seager at 44. I don't necessarily love him or anything, baseball, but
man. Like, I'm fine playing him.
Yeah, he's been so bad recently, though. I don't know. I guess he's got the home run, so
I mean,
I do think he's fine. But
in fairness, that entire lineup is batting like a combined 180. So I don't think we could throw it all on Kyle Seager that he's been bad.
Yeah, it hasn't been good for literally any of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's been no hit twice. I literally think, I don't know if it's went up or down, but they were like hitting 188 as a team or something for a minute, which is just terrible.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. And could you imagine just a full season of that?
No, the Mets fired their hitting coach after like 2 weeks of the season. What's up with Seattle's hitting coach, man? Is he still employed? Because
Seattle's just got a long leash.
He's just collecting checks at this point. He probably doesn't even show up to the ballpark. He's just sitting at his house.
Oh, man.
All right, we'll move on to shortstop. Where are you going here? I think Mondesi, man. Again, he's just too cheap. I know we like Dobnak, but as long as Mondesi is under 3K, he's up to 5th now in the lineup. Like, I'm just gonna continue to play him. I don't see why you want to play him in cash games.
Yeah, he's way too cheap. I think Kenner Falefa, if he's leading off, makes a really good option against Sheffield. I have no problems. If you can get up to Tim Anderson, feel free. 5,100 is a little too cheap for him, but I always prefer him against a lefty. But do you really care that much when it's Matt Harvey on the mound? Outside of that, though, I mean, Danny Mendick at hitting 8th, he's 2,800. Another way to get a part of the White Sox lineup. Andrelton Simmons at 2,700 is a cheap way to get some in Minnesota, but it's not like their stack is really going to be overly expensive or anything. So I feel like you're probably right where, if you're spending down, it's probably just Mondesi.
Yeah, it's just a free square, I think, on DraftKings for cash. And then we'll finish up at outfield. I mean, again, there's big slate. We can list a ton of these guys. I think in terms of spend ups, you have Nelson Cruz against the lefty. You can use him. literally anytime he's against a left-handed pitcher, you can consider him. He's one of the top plays tonight. The Arizona guys, Ketel Marte, David Peralta, I think those guys are definitely interesting. The St. Louis guys, who I'm probably going to play in my core plays, you have Dylan Carlson and Tyler O'Neill, both pretty cheap. I like them. Andrew Benintendi is cheap as well. I think he could see some ownership. And then you mentioned him for cheap as well earlier. Andrew Vaughn is up to third in the lineup, and he is very cheap on DraftKings and will be one of the higher owned hitters in cash games, I think, tonight.
Yeah. I mean, all Minnesota's guys, really. Kyle Garlick's 3,300 is just so cheap for him.
Garlick.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
Ben hating on Kyle Garlick.
Oh, I'm not. We rostered him for that leadoff home run that one time. So he's cool
perfect.
with me. And I like when we play him and he does good. We get to post the garlic gif in Discord. You know, the gif of just the garlic cloves. It's great.
Yeah.
With that,
also Minnesota, Rob Reifsnyder, I think, is a fine play against the lefty, even though he's hitting 8.
He just hits.
I was hoping he was up to 6 tonight, and 8th is such a killer, but I think you can
keep
play
him low owned though.
Oh yeah, definitely should. Yeah, I agree with that. And then I think that all 3 Seattle guys are in play. All 3 high upside. I don't think you should really use any of the 3 in cash, but I do like them in tournaments tonight.
Yeah, we got to mention Adolis Garcia as well, just because he just smashes and
because every single night
it's a home run every night. He's good against lefties. He's not going to be owned. He's not expensive for like the 50th slate in a row that this has happened, but we do have to mention him.
That was the other night someone asked me if they should play him, and I said I will literally never say no to him. And Sam started laughing, was like, what are you saying because he's so good? And I was like, no, dude, I'm just saying because the guy will hit a home run in like 10 consecutive games. He's like the kind of guy that nothing matters in the matchup or anything. You can literally just play him.
I feel like at the beginning of the season, people were waiting for like the regression to hit him, like kind of like what happened to Akil Baddoo, right? Like he was really hot for like 2 weeks and then just fell off. Yeah, Adolis Garcia has not fallen off. It's just been continuous mashing of baseballs. I just concocted the greatest lineup of all time live on stream. So if you guys are wondering, you know, if you want access to our core plays, dfscover.com/MLB, any new month or week-long subscriber gets free optimizer access. If you want access to my core plays tonight, man, I'm liking what I'm building around tonight. I think this looks pretty good. I honestly might not even change this, and it's only 5 o'clock, but I feel fairly confident in what I have at the moment. But
I like it.
I'm due for a big night, man. I am so due for a big night as well. I'm feeling it today. I am due for a big one. But all right, home run calls, Bales. Who is your home run call today?
I'm gonna go with one of your guys. I'm going Yadier Molina.
This is fantastic because you know mine's Paul Goldschmidt, and I was gonna parlay mine with the bold call that the Cardinals are hitting 5 home runs tonight. This is fantastic. One's from Goldschmidt, one's from Molina, maybe 2 from Goldschmidt. You know, 1 from Molina. Mix in one of those outfielders. This is great. They're hitting 5 homers tonight. We're gonna win all the money because we have the Cardinals, and yeah, we're gonna wake up on Saturday and get McDonald's breakfast. It's gonna be right now. It's perfect.
Oh man, I love it. I hope this happens.
I'm manifesting it now. But thank you guys for watching. We do appreciate it. If you guys have any other questions, you can hit us up in Discord and we will answer them. Final thoughts will be up about an hour for lock. Those are free today. And you can also go check out the premium slate breakdown that Bales wrote as well on the website. And other than that, we'll see you guys on Monday, and good luck tonight.